Last November at the Los Angeles Auto Show, Chevy debuted their newest truck, the Colorado ZR2, and I was instantly curious about this four-wheel drive dust maker. Front and rear lockers, plus an available diesel engine. I mean, what's not to like? Well, Chevy has got a little bit of a surprise hidden just behind those wheels. F1-inspired suspension. That's right, Chevy looked to pavement racing to get down and dirty. And I've come here to the beautiful Colorado Rocky Mountains to find out just how well that gamble has paid off. Now, most manufacturers, when they want to take their standard pickup truck to off-road glory, well, they look to Fox or Bilstein shocks to do that. But not Chevy. They went north to Canada to a company called Multimatic. Now, these shocks are pretty complicated. The dynamic suspension spool valve, basically what you need to know is it's like two shocks in one. So while you're on the pavement, it's going to give you a really smooth, very planted ride, but it's also a little bit stiffer. So you can take turns fast and there's little body roll. But when you go over to the dirt, well, that's where the fun begins, and that same suspension switches to something that's a little bit more soft and supple and really allows you to bomb through the dirt. The ZR2 is available with a 3.6-liter gas-powered engine, good for 308 horsepower and 275 pound-feet of torque. But if you want to get your oil burner on, well, they've got a diesel available as well for 181 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque, baby. That is what I'm talking about. The gas-powered engine gets a brand new 8-speed automatic, but the diesel, well, you'll have to live with the old 6-speed. Now, when the trail turns narrow and rocky, the ZR2 has got a few tricks up its sleeve. First off, a 2-inch lift, bringing the overall ride height to 8.9 inches. Because you know what? When it comes to ground clearance, let me tell you, more is better. And can we talk a little bit about geometry here? So the standard Colorado has got a pretty dismal approach angle of 17 degrees, but the ZR2, thanks to a new redesigned front fascia, ups that to 30 degrees. That's almost twice as much. So you can really hit obstacles head on and just power right on up. But perhaps the most exciting thing is that not only is there a rear locking differential, but also a front locking differential, even with the independent suspension. And the computer doesn't decide when it's gonna lock those differentials. I decide, because there's an actual button that I get to push. I am in control. I am the boss of the ZR2. I am awesome. ZR, woo! Well, now that we're on the high-speed off-road course, I have switched to a gas model because I found that the diesel, well, it takes a little bit for the turbo to spool up, so your exit speed is compromised just a bit in the corners. But you know what? If you're a master at left-foot braking, that's going to be your jam. But for me, that gas is where it's at. Now here is where these Multimatic shocks really shine, especially when you can get all four wheels off the ground, which, trust me, you can do pretty easily. And they just make the truck land so smooth and so soft, but then the truck settles really quickly so you can change direction super fast. And I would really like to see this set up maybe on a short course off-road, like maybe in the Torque series where there's a lot of jumps and a lot of quick corners, just to see how well it would do on a professional race. But out here on this, it's a lot of fun. Stability in the corners is enhanced by a 3.5-inch wider track in the front and the rear. And there's also an off-road mode, and that's going to mitigate your traction control, your stability control, and also your throttle and transmission points. Now, there's no crawl mode, there's no snow mode, there's no sand mode, so purists are going to be really happy. But if you're a techie geek, well, you might be a little disappointed. It's super easy to get the rear to hang out on this truck, especially when you're in two-wheel drive, and just a little bit of input with your steering wheel and it brings it right back in line again. The transmission does seem to upshift just a little bit faster than I would want, but I can operate it manually from this little rocker switch here on the gear shift. It's kind of awkward, but it does get the job done. But on the whole, both in the rocks and on this off-road course, y'all, I really like this truck. It's small so it can get into little tiny nooks and crannies, and it's got enough power so that you can still have a lot of fun without it being too overwhelming. Right now, this is my favorite truck. The only thing on the ZR2 that I'm not quite sold on are the tiny little 31-inch Goodyear Duratrack tires. Still, they've got pretty good tread and they did everything I asked them to do today, so maybe bigger isn't always better. As for you, if you think that a Raptor is a little bit too much, but a Tacoma is maybe not quite enough, well, you should look at that ZR2. If you've got about $40,000, you can get one at a dealership today.